Hello there, a very good morning. You're watching Proactive London, and joining us today is Darren Hazelwood here from Panther Metals, because we're going to be having a recap of all your recent developments and to reinforce your corporate strategy there at Panther, as well as provide some guidance as well on the months ahead, because they're set to be just as busy as they have already been this year, because 2021 has been incredibly busy for you, Darren. Maybe talk us through it.
Yeah, it has been, Katie, and I think it's really important that we bring the market and our investor network and also the people on the periphery of the Panther story up to date, because it's undoubtedly that there has been a lot of corporate action, and now we're moving away from that, and this is all about providing the information and really showing people that the key point now is that Panther is a settled beast, and we now move into the phase of exploration and hopefully discovery. You know, we're an explorer. We have properties in Canada and Australia. We're focused generally on gold and precious metals, but following deals on the Abonga Greenstone Belt in Ontario, Canada, and the Morodia project in the Eastern Goldfields in Australia. But we'd probably say we're more of a multi-commodity focused business. We're exploring for that discovery that provides the foundations to systematically transform the business, as every explorer is. But we've probably got a few more moving parts, and the way we've done it, we're very proud of the structure we've now got. And as an explorer, our corporate structure we've worked towards, we're now seeing pretty much an inflection point in the business over the coming months. Success in the field should see all shareholders benefit, and we've had a very loyal shareholder base, and some have held for quite some time. And because we've managed that corporate structure, we believe that any success should be reflected to their benefit as well, and then as well as those new investors that are just coming onto the shareholder register now. This has been a carefully constructed plan, and there is a certain acceptance on my part that it's maybe taken just a little longer than hoped. But on the flip side of that, I can certainly draw a lot of comfort when I look at the asset base we've now got, and of course the wider dynamics of the sector across the globe have really improved and moved in the industry's favour during that time. So it's kind of a win-win there. And but really, the structure that we're implementing will allow Panther to invest in its multiple projects, all in my opinion with the potential to provide company transforming news. And we now move forward with a pace, and we won't have the capital constraints that is often witnessed due to how we've structured the business.
Okay, you've covered a lot of ground there, really sort of setting the tone for this conversation there, Darren. As you say, a settled beast Panther is now. But let's maybe sort of dig into the details together now and talk us through your plan of action.
Well, Katie, look, we plan to list off our Australian assets on the ASX in Australia, with the business planning on raising circa 5 million Australian dollars, and that's just for them to go to work. The UK PLC will retain a stake of approximately 37%, and we'll be able to manage our own future investment decisions on maintaining that holding from a position of strength. You know, we'll know a lot more about the prospectivity of those assets over the couple of years, and that will allow us to make fact-based decisions. In 2021, there's been no capital invested in Australia by the PLC, and the volume of data that will be available from the new work programs following the capital raise will allow us to really drive future decisions, and that de-risks the Australian assets for investors. So it really does become a win-win for Panther Metals PLC. You know, in Australia, we've been extraordinarily fortunate to build a board that's more than capable of driving this forward, and that's not always easy to achieve in exploration. And and that's been reciprocated in Australia. The level of interest from the broker community in this proposal is it really backs up the strategy, and I expect news to solidify the process in fairly short order. And I'd be surprised that if this full strategy is not implemented in the autumn. The impact on Panther Metals PLC, the impact on the balance sheet, and the company having a liquid asset gives us business a strength that really is not often witnessed in the junior sector.
Okay, let's do a bit of globe trotting now. We've done Down Under. We want to concentrate on Canada now, your operations there, Big Bear, Dotted Lake, and the recent addition of the Abonga Greenstone Belt as well. Take us through it, Darren.
Yeah, so this is going to be the main focus of Panther Metals PLC as we allow the team in Australia to drive that business. And yeah, we're in Ontario, Canada. Look, it's one of the #1 destinations for mining and exploration in the world, and we've got 3 100% owned assets. They're of varied sizes. You've got Big Bear, as you've mentioned, Dotted Lake, and the recent addition of the Abonga Greenstone Belt, actually. That consists of multiple targets with multiple commodity potential. And these projects are the focus for Panther Metals, and we are now about to go to work. And we've got drilling permits in place on 2 of the projects. But first, I'll probably have a look at our lead project really on listing, which was Big Bear. And it's a project that offers so much based on historic information and also the data that our field team has uncovered over a couple of years. But what we have to do, we really have to build our relationship with the local First Nation community. And it's without doubt the biggest disappointment to me personally of the impact of COVID on the business has really been sort of my inability to travel due to the restrictions in place. But this is really needed to allow us to build those bridges that are required. And hopefully, with the easing of the travel restrictions in September, I'll be on the ground in Canada within a week of that happening. And the key part of that process will involve me building that relationships and working directly with the First Nations there. And you know, we continue to work towards the drilling permits at Big Bear. But for over at Dotted Lake, that we've got a 25-ton machine that's going to be delivered to site this week. And that is following another slight delay, and that's basically due to some of the worst forest fires in the last 30 years in the region. But that machine's coming onto site this week to start building the trail. Then that's a really exciting moment for us. Once that trail's in place, the drill rig will be able to get the access to where we need it to get to, and this will allow drilling to commence really very soon after. We're going straight into a gold bearing shear zone below a trench that's delivered really quite some spectacular gold grades. And this is an exciting moment in an autumn looking full of exciting moments, to be fair, Katie, for the business. It would be great to see some drill core to inspect on my arrival in Ontario. You know, we're also actually on Dotted Lake. We are going to be doing some further soil sampling, and that work will commence very shortly. But this is really the first stage of our exploration programs over the autumn. And then, of course, we can move on to Abonga. That deal was completed and announced at the start of August. And over at Abonga, things have really moved at pace. There's 3 of us that have really been driving this, and that's myself, Nick, and Leanne, who we did the deal with on Abonga. The work conducted by Leanne means that we've got ready-made targets there. And those targets are already drill permitted, and our initial focus is going to be on the wishbone area of Abonga, and that's a VMS target zone. And BHP drilled this in the early 90s, and basically due to modern technology, we now know that drilling drilled to within 600 meters of the target onto the north and around 800 meters as targets to the south. But even though it was still some distance away, it did intercept sulfides, and their reports clearly state that this is a high priority target, and they dropped the area only due to political movements in Canada in the early 90s. But only this week we've dispatched the tenders out for the trail building and the drilling program at Wishbone. That we're planning to drill between 12 and 1800 meters on our first turn, and our initial start date is the end of September. But we're aware that's a tight timeline, so this may lapse a little bit to early October, and that may be slightly more realistic. But really watch this space, because it's a drill program of some note in an area that a lot of people have shown interest in, and that's not just us or Leanne by a long shot. So the hard miles have been done at Obonga. It's now just a case of us getting on the ground. And as I've previously said, you know, Panther Metals is now really well placed, and we're at an inflection point. We've done the corporate stuff. The corporate stuff is now set in action, and we're now at the point of development. Everything's lined up, and now we execute the autumn strategy. And you can offer no certainties in exploration, but it's an exciting period, and I hope you'll see a lot of different business comes Christmas.
Darren Hazelwood, thank you very much indeed. Ready to execute your autumn strategy, as you say, there at Panther Metals here on Proactive London this morning.
Thanks, Katie.